Hey kids, Ham and Cheese back here with you again today. And today's video is going to be a short look at a common flaw that operators run into when trying to operate digital C4FM or the Yaesu system fusion mode on 10 meters when operating the Yaesu FT-991A. Now, we can currently tell by looking at the screen in front of us that we're already in the C4FM mode. We're at 29,250, which is the calling frequency for 10 meters. And with that, we should be ready to go. Okay? So all we should have to do is press on our group mode button right there. And when we do so, we should see a red transmit light come up right there. And we should hear the audible click. And we don't. Which also tells us we're not beaconing. This is the problem that we see a lot of, and this is one of the biggest complaints we get from users in the chat groups, the pages, and so on and so forth for C4FM, is that they can't beacon on 10 meters and they don't know why. They've looked at every setting they have in the radio, they look at every single thing on the radio that they can, and they can't understand why they can't beacon. Well, the answer is quite simple. And the answer can be found right here with this little guy, this little green speaker you see there. When we see that speaker, this radio is currently hearing noise, plain and simple. And the reason this is a problem, especially in 10 meters, which is an HF mode, is these operators, and through no fault of their own, transition from upper sideband or digital FT8, whatever they're working, right into the C4FM and try to start calling CQ or beaconing, listening for other stations. And we keep the squelch open on HF naturally because it allows us to hear those stations down in the noise and hears those weak propagation stations, so on and so forth. That poses the problem here. When that speaker's there, the radio thinks it's receiving, and it thinks it's hearing something. Start thinking back now to our APRS problem we had on the FTM300 where we had that transmit prohibit issue in mute mode. It's the same thing here. We're going from analog to digital, and when we're in digital, we don't hear that noise often, or we don't hear that noise at all in this case when we operate C4FM. So we don't know that that's occurring. So the way we fix that is very, very simple. All we have to do is hit our function button, and you can see here squelch is at 0, speaker's open. We just start closing up that squelch. Select the squelch and start closing it. And we should see that speaker eventually go away or flash intermittently like so. Okay? And let's go until it closes all the way up. Now, when we go to set our beacon off and start calling CQ, we should see the transmit light and we should hear the click. And we do in fact do so. Now, the reason that stations do this and they call for this using this mode in group mode is simply because when they're working with this, they're using this screen right here to see the other stations come back to them visually. Because you have to remember with digital modes, it's an all or nothing. And even if there's a partial response, you're going to see that station come back. And you're going to at least know who's calling you. So you can start calling back to them then in voice mode over digital versus just playing the beacon game back and forth. And then you can have a full-on C4FM digital conversation with them. And it might be somebody from across the pond, might be somebody in Asia, maybe South America, wherever. But that's why they do this. And as long as this speaker is open, we can't hear that and we can't operate that, so therefore this radio will not transmit. Now, some people like to also chase beacons just for fun, and that's perfectly acceptable as well. And you can sit here and just let this thing monitor all day long because it's only using 1 amp of power, and it's not taking up anything on the finals or anything like that. So they'll sit here and they'll look for these to start filling in. And when they fill in, you'll see them, just like these 3 blocks here. They'll fill in across for a total of 9. Alright. So in a pinch, that's how you fix the transmit prohibit problem, or the failure to beacon problem on 10 meters. And this will be the same if you're trying to do it on 6, 2 meters, 70 centimeters, and so on. So the problem that we run into with it is, and the reason why this is such a big problem, is this isn't documented anywhere. Just like a lot of the things when it comes to these Yaesu alternative modes, it's not documented. Yaesu doesn't tell you that it's doing it. They don't mention it in the manuals. They don't mention it in the Nifty Guide. They don't mention it on their website. They don't mention it anywhere. And so these operators come to the forums and they're freaking out because they think there's something wrong with their radio, when in reality it's just a simple fix. So if you're running into the same problem, again, look for that little guy there, and if you see it, start closing that squelch up. And when the squelch goes away, or if it's even intermittent like that, you now have the ability to transmit. So hopefully that fixes it for you, and hopefully that gets it going for you. Alright kids, thanks for watching, 7-3, and Happy New Year from Ham and Cheese.